I apologize for subjecting you to that.
A
Um,
lot of them apparently left the
I noticed
chambers.
that. When they showed not a quite aerial, but an overview, there were a lot of empty seats. But I don't quite get it. What did something spark them to leave, or
No, I think the New York Times reported that some of them just left one by one, kind of like a bad movie.
that was a bad movie? That was a very bad speech. That was just boring. Um, you had these lines that he'll give at his rallies that where he'll ramble on for 3 hours and then he'll start, we crossed the Atlantic and chased our destiny as pioneers across the North American continent. I mean, it's fine, but it's just so tired and old. It's this human interest story of like white firefighters being brutally murdered and then brain damaged Muslims who want to be cops. I mean, I'm sorry to be crude and rude, but it's just like, what is your fucking point? Secondly, there's no news made. I mean, the discussion of Ukraine is just meaningless. This senseless war, it's been going on so long. It's like, okay, why are they fighting? We don't know. I mean, it's just meaningless nonsense. Is this the kind of stuff that appeals to the Fox News demographic, like the 70 plus American conservatives? I presume that is the case. That is whom he is talking to directly. And these are the terms that they think in. They think in terms of like this young girl out jogging, brutally raped and murdered. Like they think in terms of like crime. They like cops and firefighters and law enforcement, and they like common sense stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just expecting something a little more interesting, and I'm curious what he's going to do. The Panama Canal stuff in Greenland has been said before. I mean, Greenland is interesting geopolitically. I mean, it when these things were announced, I was sympathetic towards them. Panama Canal is obviously important geopolitically as well. Uh, and so there is this sort of thrust of America as a big land power in control of all of these seaways. Um, and that is very interesting. And I'm sympathetic towards it. I'm sympathetic towards it. I'm also, maybe I read too much Pat Buchanan. I mean, I'm sympathetic towards the idea of protecting American industry and tariffs and so on. I do, particularly in light of what we were talking about this afternoon, there is this system of other countries buying a lot of debt to increase the value of dollars so that we can spend it on their industries. And it has been a productive system. We're not really getting ripped off with all of these trade imbalances. It basically means that we are able to consume a hell of a lot more than other countries. Now, maybe there are big problems to that. And again, I'm sympathetic towards the Buchananite position, but I don't know. In the context of everything that else is going on, it does seem a bit like madness. And just getting into tariff wars with all of these allies, I don't know what to say. But Yeah, Doge was boring. Someone pointed out it's just a laundry list of all this stuff. I mean, it's called soft power. I mean, I'm I agree with you that midwits are running the administration, the bureaucracy, and this isn't the age of the Dulles brothers and what have you. Uh, Nevertheless, I mean, there are reasons why those things are being funded. You're not actually ending the deficit. You're just simply destroying America's capacity to project power. And that includes US aid. Oh, I don't know what to say, really.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, has Trump actually changed since like the 2015 era? Like, has there been any change? Like, I think people think that there's been a change because like Doge and all of these policies have been pretty successful in terms of their implementation. But I think like Trump, like all of these like boorish, like drill baby drill, and we gotta do it, and it's all the same
That's like
stuff from.
2010 stuff. Yeah.
It's the same stuff that he's always said. It's just I kind of see it as Trump is kind of the figurehead to appeal to the mass slop boomer con conservative people, and
Yeah.
then they'll put in people like Musk and Vance are going to talk to more politically active people and engage in more deep discussion. But I think Trump is sort of he's just on autopilot, repeating the same slogans he's been repeating for years. I mean, there's
Yes.
nothing new here.
No, did feel like watching Fox News, basically. I think that must be the audience they're going after for. Yeah. I mean, it is that, and there's this idea even with Molebug where Trump will be a sort of chairman of the board, but not the CEO. We're going to put in a real CEO that is Elon Musk, and he's going to run the day to day, basically, and then Trump will be sort of up there, appear at board meetings, give his approval, etc. And that does seem to be what's happening. And it's almost like the conservatives that are a large percentage of the country are kind of in his position as well. They like this slop. They like to hear about white firefighters getting brutally murdered by illegal gang members. Yeah, they love to hear that. Those stories, they just
Well, I kind of see Trump less as like a chairman of the board and more like a mascot. Like this is like Mr. Met or like the Quaker Oats, like the guy on the Quaker Oats box. I mean, I
yes.
think I said before in some space, but I think Trump's sort of becoming a sort of like a personification of some kind of general movement, just populism in general. It's kind of like he's becoming Uncle Sam. And
Yeah.
even once Trump leaves, there's still going to be a sort of devotion to Trumpism or Trump ideas, but it's not going to be anything that Trump's actually said. It's just he is he is the eternal figurehead. He is the big brother. He is Uncle Sam now.
Yeah.
This is what the country is.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely correct. Yeah. I mean, it is funny because the conservative movement used Ronald Reagan in this way. There was a funny Onion article from like the 2010 era that it said, like, at CPAC, the conservative movement literally resurrects the decomposing corpse of Ronald Reagan in order to give keynote address. And they had this like image of Reagan with like worms coming out of his head and like his like skull, like, like, coming through his face. And he was like, and it was very funny because it was true. It's like they did that forever. And it was all about Reagan. And you can sort of project anything you want on Reagan. I mean, Buchanan used Reagan, particularly with the what is it, the situation in Lebanon, I believe. Anyway, in like 1982, I go look up the facts, but he presented Reagan as like the staid cold warrior who's willing to talk to the other side. He's a realist or whatever. The neocons presented Reagan as, he believed in freedom and demanded tearing down the wall and blah, blah, blah. and social conservatives were like Ronald Reagan, he hated abortion, and libertarians were like Ronald Reagan, he cut the government, even though he obviously didn't. It's just, yeah, it is like a mascot. It's like the Quaker Oat man. Yeah, basically, just Trump. And Trump was in this mood where he does a lot of understatement as humor. So he was like, they were over at Cartel Island. Quite a name, not a very nice place. Like this, 38,000 workers died of malaria. Not so nice. Not so. It's just this like understatement of things. And people are like, oh, he's so funny. God. Maybe I do hate this country and God, I don't know. It's just very disappointing. I mean, say what you will about George W. Bush. Those State of the Unions were kind of rocking. I remember listening to them and hating them at the time, but at least he was promoting some sort of wild ideology. It wasn't so wild in a way. It was an ideology that was good for the country. All right, let's listen to Slopkin.